Is that all okay, Brad? It looks like we're streaming now. Sorry, I've lost you. You're on mute there.
Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, we're live. Happy to start. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So the first item is the appointment of the chairman, who will take proceedings from that point onwards. So, members, can I just have a proposer and a seconder on who would like to appoint as chairman, please?
I would like to propose Councillor Jeff Jones to be chairperson.
Is that
second that proposal?
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. You happy with that? Everyone's happy with that? Okay, fantastic. So, Councillor Jones.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this subcommittee hearing. I have a legal statement to make, first of all, regarding virtual meeting. Excuse me. The local authorities and police and crime panels, coronavirus, flexibility of local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England, Wales, regulation 2020, came into force on Saturday, 4th of April 2020 to enable councils to hold remote committee meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic period. This was to ensure local authorities could conduct business during this current public health emergency. This meeting of the licensing subcommittee is being held remotely under these regulations via the Zoom application and is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. Okay, so that's the legal bit out of the way. Good morning, welcome everybody. I'll start off by introducing or getting people to introduce themselves. Probably I'll introduce. My name is Councillor Jeff Jones. I'm chairman, been appointed chairman today of this subcommittee. I'm a member, of course, of the SART's licensing subcommittee, and so we have two other subcommittee members, and I'll get them to introduce themselves. Councillor Goldspink.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Marnie Goldspink, District Councillor from Bishop Stortford, and I am a member of this licensing subcommittee.
Thank you. Chris.
Hi, I'm Councillor Chris Wilson, and I'm also a District Councillor, also from Bishop Stortford, All Saints, and member of this subcommittee.
Thank you very much. And also we have, I'll introduce our licensing officer, Brad. You're muted, Brad.
Thank you. Sorry. Good morning to you. I'm Brad Wheeler, Senior Licensing and Enforcement Officer.
And from legal, Victoria.
Morning, everyone. I'm Victoria Wilders, the Legal Services Manager.
And Democratic Services, we have two officers. Peter.
Peter's on mute there, but I'm Will. I'm acting as a Democratic Services Officer. Peter's here along to observe and help if necessary as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And we have the applicant, of course, so welcome, Thomas.
Good morning.
And we have interested parties. I think that's Ben.
Morning, guys. Yeah, Ben Fathers. I own the property that links to what Thomas is doing, but hi, Thomas, particularly. I'm not trying to be a pain.
Hi, Ben. No, that's fine.
Thank you very much. We also have some councillors present who won't be taking part in this meeting, but they're here as observers. So I think that covers everybody. Just to run through the procedure, what we'll do, I'll ask the licensing officer to make his presentation. Following his presentation, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions if required at that stage. We'll then move on to the applicant to make his statement. Again, an opportunity to ask questions. And of course, the interested party, Ben, that will give you an opportunity to make your statement and for us to ask questions. We will then, following the questions, you will then have a final opportunity to sort of sum up your presentations. If required, you may have said enough already, but you may want to add something further. And then the licensing committee will retire. We have a room set aside for us to deliberate and then come back to you with our decision. So is everybody happy with that procedure? And if you do need to ask questions, I think probably the easiest way, because you know, we can see everybody on screen, is literally just raise your hand and wait for me to bring you forward. So with no further ado, I think we can proceed, Brad, with the licensing presentation.
I do apologise, Chairman. Just before that, sorry, Brad, to jump in there. We just need to cover off formally items 2, 3, and 4.
I beg your pardon. Sorry, I've ignored the agenda. Right,
there is no apologies, obviously, it seems.
Yeah, no, we've got no apologies. Item 2. Item 3, Chairman's announcements. I have none. Well, I've made those already. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest, members? No? Okay, that's covered. Item 5, summary of procedure. Well, I've covered that. So we move on to the application and item 6, which is for a new premises licence for French and Day Limited.
Thank you, Chairman.
So, yes, sorry about that. And we'll now move over to Brad for his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you all. Contained in the papers in front of you is my full report outlining an application for a new premise licence under the Licensing Act 2003. This can be found between pages 15 and 50 of your bundle. As you've already seen the report and the accompanying documents, I shall provide a very brief summary to the application and the representations received. On the 19th of October 2020, an application for a new premise licence was received from the applicant, French and Day Limited, in regards to a premises situated at 55 High Street, Ware. The proposed application seeks the following licensable activities to be granted. This is the supply of alcohol on and off the premises between 0900 and 2300 on Monday to Sunday. The application can be found in Appendix A, which is starts on page 33 to 50 of the bundle. Regarding the steps to promote the licensing objectives, the applicant has stated a number of steps that can be found on pages 41 to 42 of the application and in paragraph 3.5 of my report. These include that all alcohol sales are to be accompanied by a small serving of complimentary snacks to encourage responsible drinking, and that the premises will operate a Challenge 25 policy. These are further supported through conditions agreed with both Hertfordshire Constabulary and our environmental health teams, as detailed in paragraphs 3.6 of the report. These steps include that no speakers, amplifiers or audio equipment shall be mounted on walls or ceilings of the premises so to prevent sound transmission adjoining the properties. Alcohol for consumption on the premises shall only be supplied in connection with food that is consumed at table. Alcohol for consumption off the premises shall only be supplied in sealed containers. That there should be no use of bins or depositing of any rubbish or glass bottles between 2100 and 0800 the next morning. There are a number of conditions relating to CCTV systems. Challenge 25 in use, that there's a refusal log, incident book and staff training, that no alcohol be displayed within 3 meters of any entrance or exit of the premises, that there should be no unaccompanied children at the premises at any time, and that during tasting events, non-alcoholic drinks are to be offered as an alternative to alcohol. Patrons are to be discouraged from congregating outside the premises, and that there are conditions around alcohol deliveries and the click and collect service at the premises. During the consultation period, there has obviously been a representation received regarding this application. There's been one objection from a local resident that's joining us today. These are regarding to the prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives and the prevention of crime and disorder. This representation can be found in Appendix B on page 55 of your bundle, and also in the additional information that was sent to you yesterday. The report looks at the East Herts Statement of Licensing Policy and the revised guidance under Section 182 of the Licence Act 2003. The report provides information submitted by the applicant and the interested party making the representation, and the subcommittee should determine the application in the view of promoting the 4 licensing objectives. In determining the application, the licensing subcommittee should consider if you believe that the applicant has provided evidence that, if should the license be granted, would promote the licensing objectives and would not undermine them. This evidence should be balanced against the evidence given by those making representations that the licence objective would be undermined. If members believe that the application would not undermine licensing objectives, then the application should be granted as requested. If members believe that there is evidence that in granting the licence that this would not promote the licensing objectives, then it is in your remit to take any action that you believe is appropriate and proportionate to address these concerns. Members can attach conditions and take any steps that you believe is appropriate, such as limiting hours or restricting the licensing activity. If there are no steps that can be taken, then you should refuse the application in its entirety, but this should always be the last resort. The licensing subcommittee should determine, the subcommittee's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being proportionate and appropriate for the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives. I thank you for your time, and that concludes my report.
Thanks very much, Brad. Okay, at this point, councillors, do you have any questions, particularly to Brad on this one? No. Chris, you okay? Okay, then we will move on to the applicant, Mr. Day. The floor is yours, as it were.
Thank you. Sorry. Morning, my name's Thomas Day. I'm the owner of French and Day Delicatessen. I've lived in Ware for the last 8 years. I'm originally from Hertford. Sadly, I got made redundant during the first lockdown, so I decided to start a business. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, so this is kind of all very new and very exciting for me. But the business itself is a delicatessen in the traditional sense, in that we will be serving things like meats and cheeses, sort of fine foods from the area, and obviously as part of that we'd like to sell beers, wines and spirits as well. We're trying to focus as much as possible on stocking local products, so from Hertfordshire, but sort of then moving out from Hertfordshire geographically. The idea is to sort of celebrate the best of what we can produce in this area. I think so far the only thing really that's coming from abroad will be things like wine, because quite limited on that side of things. As an addition to the sort of the standard retail aspect of the delicatessen, we're planning to have a very small hospitality element, which at this time literally consists of 6 stalls along a bar in our window. And the idea would be that you could purchase a little plate of meats or cheeses or some antipasti and then enjoy it with a glass of wine or a beer alongside it. So very much in the kind of continental style. Additionally, we're looking to run events once we're up and running, such as wine tasting or sort of paired evenings. So the idea would be that these would be sort of showcasing a particular type of drink or type of food. So we'd look to partner with some of our suppliers over that. And so that would obviously include the consumption of alcohol as well. So that's pretty much the premise of the business. We're, like I said, we're trying to work as much locally as possible, and we're trying to source as much locally, and certainly working with the other businesses in town where we can as well. Very keen to become part of the local community. It's been really nice during lockdown seeing how everyone in Ware has started to pull together, and we're excited to be part of that.
Fine, thank you very much, Mr. Day. So we'll go over to questions. I mean, I've got one question, if I can kick it off, Mr. Day, just in terms of the, so the licence you requested really is to run the deli, and your opening hours are 9 till 6, I think it was, 6 p.m. But I think what we're looking at is having a licence so that it would allow you to hold sort of tasting events, etc., in the evening as and when. Got any idea in your sort of business plan of how many of those events per year, for instance, you're proposing there?
Yeah, so as you say quite rightly, our core trading hours will probably be actually 10 till 7 during the week, and then really the later hours that we've requested is to allow us to run these events. I think given the manpower involved in actually running the events, it's not something we'd be looking to do hugely regularly. I would have thought the reality is probably every couple of months, but perhaps at max, I would have said maybe one a month once we're sort of in our stride and know what we're doing. But I can't see it would ever be more regular than that, purely because of the work involved in doing so.
And where would you obviously wouldn't have the space at the front there, or would you, for those tastings? Or would there be an area at the rear?
I think it depends on sort of the number of people. I mean, obviously at the moment with the restrictions in place for COVID, we probably won't be able to run any events for the moment. So this is very much a kind of later on kind of thing. But we have the 2 rooms that form the property. So the front room is very much the counter area, and there is a small amount of space there. So there is the potential that we could do them in that area. But what we envisage probably doing is using the rear sales floor area. We have a little table in the middle that is it's like a tall, narrow table which could be used as a sort of standing area. So we'd probably use the back room. But in terms of numbers, I can't see, purely because of a space perspective, I can't see that we'd ever have more than, say, 15, 20 people. I mean, that would be snug. So.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions at this stage? Yeah, Councillor Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, good morning, Mr. Day. Thank you for your presentation. Yes, with these wine tasting events, which you would like to hold, did I see somewhere that the people who come will have to book in advance so that you will know who's coming and you will be able to control the numbers?
Yes, absolutely. It'd be a completely pre-booked events, so that people would buy tickets, come along to the evening, and that would include obviously the tasting, the actual products that were to be tasted, and also we'll probably always have food as well alongside it, because I think if you're tasting wines, as much as you'd like to ask people to use the spittoon, I would imagine people would choose to actually enjoy the wine instead. So we want to make sure that that doesn't get out of hand.
Thank you. And could I ask one other question? There is a residential property quite near to you. Is that at the back of your premises, behind your storeroom, or is it upstairs?
So our premises, so it's we're both sides of Water Row, which is an alley, or a little residential road that runs in between us, and I believe the property next door sort of flies over what would have been the entrance, I guess, to the stable yard. So the property adjoins on the first floor directly above us. So we only have the ground and basement floor, and the landlord retains the first and second floors, and they join at that point, so on our sort of side wall, as it were.
Oh, all right. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions at this stage? Chris?
Hi, morning, Mr. Day. Question would be, have you looked into any sort of soundproofing arrangements or taken any advice about how to perhaps reduce the sound within the premises, considering obviously you had the objection that you know about?
We haven't. I think it would be potentially quite difficult to introduce any soundproofing because it's a listed building. So the front room that forms the front part of our sales floor has wood panelling all the way around, which we wouldn't be able to overclad because that wouldn't be given listed building consent. And in the back room, again, it's all listed. So there's one wall which is modern and the rest is kind of a listed space. So I think the only thing that could possibly be done is maybe some insulation in the floorboards above, but it's the landlord's space really, because we wouldn't be able to access it from our side. I can't, because our property at ground floor doesn't directly adjoin the next door property. Obviously, we've got on one side of us the bank, which is a brick wall, but on the other side we have the actual water road. So there isn't any walls on within our demise that actually adjoin the adjacent property.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarity, I think on the papers we've got a plan of the premises. I think it's at Annex B. Can you just run through it? We were struggling with the layout as to know where the residential part is, etc.
Sure. So
have you got the plan there? Oh, yeah,
yes.
Right.
If you have our plan in front of you, I think it's the one.
That'd be good.
Yeah, it's the plan that's got the fire strategy and licensing outlines on it. If you look at where the label says 55 High Street, 53 High Street, sorry. So 53 High Street is the ground floor of the flat that's next door, and I believe the accommodation runs over the first floor. Sorry, I think the interested party might be able to correct me if that's incorrect, but so if you go slightly left on the plan, a little bit more. Okay. Oh. So
if you can make that plan smaller, Will, it's all good.
I think it's Brad's controlling this. Brad, you could zoom out slightly, maybe.
Yeah, to zoom out and touch it.
No.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
okay, oh that's good.
Yeah.
So obviously you can see from the high street, and then you can see where Water Row runs down the side of our property. So this is at ground floor level. The flyover from the next door property at 53 High Street joins for that front part. So where you can see the little steps going into the access lobby on the side, around that point is where the next door flat finishes, the flyover finishes, and from that point forward it's just a conventional sort of open street. So at the front part where our front sales floor is, on the first floor the buildings are adjoined.
Yes. Okay. And that rear sales floor is where you're proposing for the tasting.
Yeah, more than likely that's where we would use, yes.
Okay. Thanks very much for that. Ben, do you, at this stage, do you want to come in and give some?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Sorry, Chairman, just to interject. Sorry, Mr. Pollers, if you could just ask any questions for the applicant at the minute, and then we'll come to your statement and sort of presentation just after that. I just want to check that any licensing legal officers don't have any other questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions?
Yes, the only thing I would raise is if you wanted to explore with the applicant whether or not they are putting in what measures they're putting in place to avoid nuisance being caused by the premises. I know we've addressed the sound issues, but I didn't know if you wanted to explore that officer observation at para 3.28 any further with them, just at this stage, or wait till later.
We can look at that now. If the applicant wants to comment on that, 328.
So let me just bring that in front of me so I can see. Right, so this is about the adjoining wall between the two properties. Is that right? So as I mentioned, the properties join at the first floor level, which is not within our demise. That's actually the landlord's area still, and I believe they plan to continue using that as office space. So we don't actually have any walls that adjoin the adjacent property on that side within our demise.
Okay, thanks for that clarity. All right. Ben, would you like to make a statement or ask questions?
Yeah, please, thanks. So, yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm Ben Fathers. I'm the property One Water Row, which sits, you saw that 53 High Street. We mentioned, I think, that kind of gap in between, road in between, was a flyover through that. So that is where I suppose there will be a level of noise transference from that, from the proposed business that are coming in. I think it sounds great, by the way. I think it sounds perfect for where I'd like to be very progressive about this conversation. I don't want it to stop the business. I think that's, I just want to be very clear about that. I just want to put some potential pointers out there about how it may improve or help the situation for myself in the situation, as I work in film and I work shifts quite regularly. So I'm often working through the night and then obviously want to come back and rest. Also, importantly, I often go to bed very early, and if you potentially might have a wine and cheese evening going on, that could cause some issues for me. These buildings are 700 years old, particularly my property's a listed building. It's horsehair plaster which separates the building. So really, regardless if you're on the adjacent floor or not, the noise transference is palpable. So whether people are going up and down stairs, having conversations, that noise transference comes through. Now, if you are a bank, it's relatively calm. It's relatively small traffic. It's a small high street. Therefore, that noise transference tends to be minimal. Plus, you have a counter with a security guard across it. So again, it layers a level of sound interference between the adjacent properties. I can hear people's conversations within the bank on the ground floor. So as you can imagine, that backs onto my bedroom, which is the adjacent area, and it causes issues. If there are workmen on the ground floor during that period of time where the bank's been renovated, they might as well be in the bedroom themselves. It's very, very, very loud. Footsteps, workmen's boots. And I suppose if you can imagine people having fun, which I'm sure they're going to, but in a very sophisticated manner, by the sounds of it, wine and cheese sounds delicious. There is still going to be a level of volume from that community of people. There is also an issue. Again, I've got a bit more detail now, which I probably didn't have before, and hence the importance of a conversation between the fact that it's going to be on the ground floor, but we are overlooked. So any kitchen prep that goes above that ground floor, which it doesn't sound like it would be overlooked for us. So I think there's a separate discussion that I would have to have with the landlord about what's going on with those offices, but probably negates that potential issue if it is ground floor only. There is a huge challenge for me, is another point, in fouling down that street, Water Row. Again, this sounds like a sophisticated evening. It's not a pub, a sawdust pub. I'm constantly coming out cleaning the cobbled street, and I think that will probably, or has the potential to add to that nuisance. And again, I think this will ultimately have a knock-on effect to the value of my property because of that noise transference if we don't at least look at some kind of soundproofing, which could be done from within my property because there isn't any listed panelling or anything like that. Okay.
Fine. Okay. Thank you very much.
That was clear.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So your property is not listed.
Mine is listed, yeah. 1337, the age of the property, but it's not. It's listed, but what we have up currently are probably walls that went up in the 70s. So I mean, there will be horsehair plaster beneath that, and so we don't have any protected, wooden paneling or interior. Listings, as it were. The listings within the building are actually the doors, nothing else.
Yeah.
It's a grade 2. It's not a grade 2 star.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Members, do you have any questions, comments at this stage? Or perhaps I should ask the applicant. Perhaps. Tom, we could ask you, I mean, having heard the objections, if you like, or the concerns, I think is probably a better word, isn't it? Concerns that Ben has as a neighbour. Do you have any comment to make really on that?
I mean, obviously, I completely appreciate Ben's position, and having been in the building when the landlords had their own team upstairs, he is right about sound transmission. So the difficulty is there's not an awful lot in terms of soundproofing we can do from our side, as Ben has actually highlighted. The room that is adjacent to his actually has 17th century paneling all around it, so the landlord can't even touch it from their side because it's part of the listing. One of the things we did agree with environmental health as a sort of a trying to move towards negating this is that we wouldn't put any kind of speakers or music systems adjacent that property. I mean, if we have music anyway, it's going to be very light background music, and more than likely it's going to be from a sort of an Amazon Alexa device, and it will be over by the counter, so it's never going to be particularly loud. Obviously, when we run events, I would hope that if we have wine tastings and stuff, that people will enjoy themselves. Obviously, we try and keep that sort of fairly moderate in terms of that there won't be additional music with it or anything like that. But I can appreciate that the sound may carry from that. Again, as Ben pointed out, I'd like to think that the type of customers that we'll get would not be the type that would go down Water Row and relieve themselves. Obviously, I can't really control that, but I'd assume that they wouldn't be the kind of people to come along to a wine and cheese evening. But obviously, we wouldn't want to do anything that would encourage that kind of behaviour, because I think we could all agree that that's not very nice.
Okay, thanks for that. Just one thing to say. I mean, if we were minded to grant this application, I mean, there is always, and I think Victoria, our legal representatives, can help us out on this. There is an opportunity to review that. If we find that there are, if you find that there are issues that concern you, I just wonder. That's correct, isn't it, Victoria?
Yeah, that's correct, Jeff. There's always an opportunity for a licence review. So if obviously there are difficulties, it can come back to committee for to re-examine.
So we are able to look at it again. How do you feel about that, Ben?
I mean, having met Thomas, seems like a great guy, and the opportunity seems great for him. So I'd be happy with that. And also, I may ask, as as an early statement, that maybe we could actually, in that license, limit the amount of evenings just to start with. And I know you're saying, Thomas, that you don't see that being something that's going to, be really extensive to start with. And then you can reapply once we build a relationship and feel like they're, civil, enjoyable, well-practiced evenings, maybe we could move along that road just to limit that. It's the evenings that concern me the most.
Yeah.
I'm not there often during the day, right? So, go for your life. but ultimately, I think that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable, certainly, you know, about the evenings, because as I mentioned before, I do shift work and have to go to bed relatively early. Any disruption there would be quite a nuisance to me.
Ben, do you have a number in mind that you'd consider to be okay?
I mean, I would say, one a month maybe.
Yeah.
I'd
be happy to limit ourselves to one a month. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't mind one a month.
But we do it more than that anyway. I think purely because of the organisation involved in doing them.
Yeah, and I think it's really about, you know, with all due respect, you know, people would say one a month and then it's 5 times a week. So
No, that's fair enough.
Oh, that sounds like a good proposal. It was something I was going to come to in terms of restricting the number of evenings. So, okay. Any further questions? I mean, do you want me to give you an opportunity to sum up really before we? I think we're probably getting to the stage where we would retire and consider that now. I think
that's right, Chairman. If there are no further questions of Mr. Fathers from anybody, then yes, start with the applicant first to sum up, and then Mr. Fathers after that.
Yeah.
If everyone's finished with the questions, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Dave. To add?
I suppose just in summary, obviously, I'm very keen to be a good neighbour. I certainly don't want to do anything that's going to negatively impact on Ben's lifestyle. I mean, I'd hope that he'll become a customer of ours, to be honest with you. But obviously, we'll do whatever we can to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen. Certainly, in terms of the music and stuff, we will make sure that we keep that to a minimum because we don't want any of that to transfer. And then, yeah, if you decide to put a limit on the number of events that we do, then that's, you know, as long as it's workable for us, I think that's a fair compromise from our perspective.
Okay, thank you very much. Ben, do you want to add anything further?
Yeah, just a couple of points really. You know, number one, I'd like to say I don't want to get in the way of progression. I think it sounds like a great idea. The high street is really moving on. You know, I've lived there for 15 years, 16 years. I think it's a great idea. I don't want to get in the way of that. I really don't. If we can get to a compromise on the evenings, that would be great. I would like there to be a little bit of investigation, if we can do on sound, what we can do beyond that. I suppose that would be my only other marker for consideration.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Members, anything further for you to add? Questions? No. So I think we're probably at that stage then that the subcommittee will retire and come back to you hopefully very shortly with our findings. Thank you very much.
Just to say to Mr. Day and Mr. Fathers, we're still going to be live streaming the main meeting on YouTube. So if you just remain on mute, you might want to turn your cameras off while we deliberate, and then we'll come back and you can come back. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to, basically I've got 2 rooms. So basically the committee members, the Democratic Services Officer and the Legal Officer, and then the other room for everyone else. So just to say we're just about to be transported. 3, 2, 1. You should hopefully get a...
So we go to join.
If you can click join, please.
I've just done it.
And I've got an invitation to join Breakout Room Run. Is that right?
I think we don't go, right?
I was going to say.
I think that's when they do the judgment, right?
Yeah, I think I'll leave that one.
Yeah, or shall we join? That'd be much more interesting.
Hello.
Yeah, cool. Right, I'll leave. Good luck, Thomas. And I'm sure.
Very much. Hopefully, see you in the shop sometime.
Yeah, we'll be. Yeah, sure, definitely. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, we're back in the room. Just wait for other members to join us.
Hello, Brad.
Right.
Brad there? Oh yeah, Brad's there. I think that's probably everyone.
Yeah.
No, we haven't got Ben, have we? It could be that.
I'll send an email over.
Yeah. Are we still recording and live streaming, Brad?
We're still live streaming, yes.
Yeah. And recording?
We'll do it in 30 seconds when I hit
Yep.
It could be that Ben's on the live stream. I think we'll just carry on, Brad.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. Okay. So the licensing subcommittee have listened to the comments of the senior licensing and enforcement officer, the applicant and the interested party, and the subcommittee have taken into account concerns raised by the interested party. The subcommittee has decided to approve the application subject to the additional steps agreed with the police and environmental health to promote the licensing objectives. Additional conditions: licensing hours are limited from 9 AM to 7 PM from Monday to Sunday, apart from during pre-arranged events that are to take place no more than once monthly, during which licensing hours will extend from 9 AM to 11 PM. The sale of alcohol finishing 15 minutes before closing time at 10:45. In coming to its decision, the subcommittee believed that the applicant has provided evidence that the granting of the licence would promote and not undermine the licensing objectives. The evidence was balanced against the representations made by the residents. There is a right of appeal for you within 28 days to the magistrate's court.
21 days, Chair.
What did I say?
21 days. It should be 21, not 28.
Okay, beg your pardon. I had 21 written down as well. Don't know why I said 28. Sorry about that. So yes, right of appeal within 21 days to a magistrate's court. And you will receive the notice of our decision in writing. So thanks everybody for your time this morning. And